Welcome back to the Space Between Ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. In the last video, we started this little case study where we're looking at a consulting company where the rainmaker, the person who was in charge, he started out as a banker. He then moved into consulting. He then was able to attract a lot of attention and get a lot of clients. He then discovered that his clients needed additional services. He then found a partner in order to have somebody that could run the business and to expand the number of services that the consulting company was providing for those clients. At some point, they had a well-greased, a well-oiled, well, let's just say that things were working. He realized that, okay, so I hired somebody that can run all these other departments in my company, and it enables me to focus mainly on doing consulting work, but I'm still spending like 35% of my time generating leads. And so he thought to himself, would it be possible to develop a corporate model for generating leads? He was playing with the idea of investing in some new AI system. Potentially, this is a good time to start playing with some AI system in order to generate leads. Unfortunately, the consulting area, well, it's generally based on personal relationships. And so I was kind of worried about this idea of AI. Now, I'm not against trying out the tool. In fact, if you have a little bit of extra budget, then why not learn how to use these AI tools? But my concern was we need to first understand what is going on in your processes right now. So we used the metaphor of catching fish because he said, well, the problem is that I'm the guy out there catching the fish and I need to pass on this 35% of my time onto somebody else. Is it realistic? Okay, so that means that we're changing. What he's saying is, I want to change this from personal branding to corporate branding. I want to change it from me and my name and turn it into a brand name. Right? So when you hear about consulting companies like what? Like Deloitte or McKinsey and McKinsey, or is it McKinsey and Company? I'm used to hearing about, well, you got the accounting firms, you got the law firms, then you got the Bain and Company. So you got these consulting companies where it's the name that you hear first. It's not the specific actors that work for those companies. He wants to turn it from his name into a corporate brand. Let's review a little bit what we were talking about last time. Last time we were talking about, well, what does it mean to actually fish? So we started this discussion talking about the first idea, which means identify a target. If you're actually fishing, what does it mean to identify a target? It means picking the fish that you want to catch. Strangely enough, I don't fish, but that does sound like a pretty good way to start out, deciding exactly the kind of fish that you want to attract. If we go back to, what's it called, the business model canvas, remember that we have customer segments. And if we go back to the state synergies checklist, then we have our clients. So remember, we had peers, providers, and customers. All right, so we need to decide who it is that we want to attract. In the top, in the x-axis, we were using 4 of the concepts from the state styles checklist. We were using nil, haphazard, tentative, and procedural. These are all based on creating a process, creating and improving processes, which means what? First thing I asked him was, how do you identify your targets? Do you have an actual process? And we talked about that in the last video. And then we talked about locate the target. Locate, okay, once you decide on the fish, then obviously if it's a saltwater fish, it's going to be in saltwater. If it's a freshwater fish, it's going to be in freshwater. If it's a river fish, it's going to be in a river. Where's the river? Which river do you want to go to? Locate the target. For a lot of people, they use either Facebook or LinkedIn and for their kind of like their group, for developing a group, because LinkedIn and Facebook are good places to grow groups. In fact, if we look at the third thing, which I just started talking about in the last video, attracting attention, then you know that I produce about 2 videos a week with this channel, and I produce about 3 videos a week for my French channel, which means I'm producing 5 videos every week. And then I cut those up into shorts. I can see the difference between what happens when you post on LinkedIn, what happens when you post on Facebook, and then when you cut them up, what happens when you post those shorts on TikTok and on Instagram, and also when you post the shorts on LinkedIn. And also, I'm starting to learn how to use the platform X. As you remember from some of the previous videos I've created, you know that I'm not like overly communicative on these platforms. Mostly right now, I'm like media. I'm blasting information, and I'm just like trying to see what happens with the reverberation of the ideas. And I can see where some areas I'm growing and some areas I'm not growing. I understand very clearly that on some platforms, you have to, as I talked about in previous videos, you have to create platform-specific content. You have to follow the trends. You have to start making comments. You have to start actually participating in these social media arenas. The concept is attract attention. That's your lure. So you got your lure, it's on your fishing rod, you cast, it lands in the river, and then you see what happens. So do I need to change my lure? Do I need to stand in a different place around the river? Like, how do I attract attention? Do I need to change the location where I'm fishing? Or do I need to change the target? Like, and all of those ideas are based on nil. So I'm not posting every day or haphazard. I post sometimes and sometimes I don't post, or tentative. So, okay, so I was using one type of posting strategy and now I'm thinking about trying a new type of posting strategy. Or in my case right now, where I'm in the procedural. So I do the same thing each week, and maybe it's time to think about jumping back down to either haphazard or jumping back down to maybe tentative, trying out something new. Or moving from nil to haphazard. Okay, so what will happen if I start to communicate with other people on these platforms? What happens when I create some platform-specific content or start participating in trends? Next, you go get them to bite. In this case, the lure, it's like attracts the fish from far away. The bait is what actually gets them to bite the hook. With this particular case study with this gentleman that I was talking to, at the top, when we talk about identify target, because I'm looking at the table right now, underneath identify target, it says that he's already identified 17. He has a plan to identify another 50 locate targets. So what he does is they focus on decision makers on LinkedIn, and then they try to add like 3 other people from the same company, and they have a process. So I guess that's what he does himself, because I know that he doesn't have other people that are doing this for him. Then suddenly we go down to attract attention, and then what? Now we're in tentative. So that's where he's saying, well, I'm using a CRM tool, but I'm thinking about trying a new AI tool, and I want to know, is there other things I can do? So I want to try out new things. Also, when it comes to attracting attention, like creating posts, then we're down to haphazards. It's like sometimes we produce posts and sometimes we don't produce posts. Then when we go down to get them to bite, now he's talking about he invites people to events. He wants people to attend events. And this is in haphazard. And then like, do you have an event right now? And he said, nil. How are you going to place the hook? Like that, when you get to the event, when they actually get there, that's when you're going to get that client. That's when you're going to get them to sign. You're going to reel them in. See, everything, it's like, it's heavy on the left side. It's heavy on the nil and the haphazard. We need to figure out how do we actually put those processes more on the procedural side. And then after that, we can figure out how AI is going to help us.